on Monday night after the stream, and I was streaming Fortnite. Oh, I accidentally set fire to the house drum, careful. I've set fire to the boat as well. I don't know how I've done this. I don't know how I've done this!
I can suggest.
Oh shit, I killed someone with the fire! I killed someone,
Yeah,
back here. Oh shit, my bad. You should come watch, it's fun. I always stream Fortnite, it's just one of the things I stream sometimes for fun. Anyway, after I got off the stream, and before I played League of Legends on my Patreon Discord, so yeah, if you want to join the Patreon, link down below. After I got off the stream, I saw this image. And for a moment, it actually shocked me. I exclaimed out loud, what the f***? Magali's probably one of the best artists in the game right now, especially when it comes to like emotion-filled portraits of human character. This is Elspeth holding the replicated or created Silex from Saheeli as it detonates. And at first I thought, is she dead? And that's probably the title and the thumb of this video too, because that was literally my first thought. I thought, holy shit, after being killed, getting over it and getting better, Elspeth, one of my favourite Planeswalkers, is now actually dead? Well, no, there's a bit more to it than that. She actually disappears, planeswalks away as the silence goes off, so it's not quite clear what has happened or where she's gone. But then I went and read all 5 of the short stories this morning, and I think they're really, really good. So in today's video, I'm going to synopsize them for those people who don't want to read them. If you do, I'll link them down below. I think they're actually really worth a read. I think they're very well done. And I'm also going to talk about some of the bits I do like, don't like, and then what this means for the future of Magic. Oh, and some theories on where we're going, some ideas about what might happen, you know, at the end of this story arc, how they undo some of the damage, and then what we get after that. As always, this video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, so to pick up single or sealed products, use the code in the description below, or the code KENOBI at checkout to get 5% off your order and help support the show. So big shout out to CNN Maguire, who has written The Assault on New Phyrexia, which I think is a great title as well, and the first part being called Uncontrolled Descent is wicked too. The articles are dotted with art like this. This is just some superstructure on the surface of Mirrodin, some sort of icon or statue or homage to the idea, the concept of Phyrexia. It's also got a very faint feel of, I don't want to say it because everyone says about everything, but this is the one piece of art in the set where I'm like, that feels a little bit Eldrazi. I'm not going to go through every story, people are going to synopsize in short. Kato, the Wanderer, and Nahiri arrive on the surface of Mirrodin. They've crashed into a planar barrier as they attempted to basically deep strike several layers down to enact a strike plan to destroy the World Tree, now known as the Realm Breaker. I'll come back to that. They land, they fight Phyrexians, and they find a statue wrapped in cables. They fight the cables, the statue turns out to be Tyvar. Tyvar is an interesting one in this story arc because he seems to have abilities that are just not replicated on any of his cards. I did not follow the Kaldheim story very closely, I followed it loosely, essentially. I wasn't as into it as this, as I'm super hot for Phyrexians. But both the original Tyvar Kell that has this elves-like theme, because he's an elven prince, and Tyvar Jubilant Brawler, which gives things haste and reanimates creatures, has nothing to do with what his actual magic is explained to be in these collection of short stories. He is essentially a transmuter, and he does it with his skin. He can touch materials and then replicate them onto his skin, giving himself wooden, metal, or in this case, glimmer void armor that allows him to punch and fight in a much more efficient way than someone with normal fleshy hands. When I started to realise what he was doing, I was like, there's no way he survives, but it looks like we've got a completed non-completed version of him coming out of the set, and in the stories he doesn't get killed or taken over the Phyrexians either. Once Tyvar is in tow, they travel through the desert and they find Melira. Yes, that Melira. She'll probably get a new card in the new set. We haven't seen it yet unless you're into leaks. I think actually not talking about leaks is kind of dumb, but I also don't get ostracised by the wider community who are a bit holier than thou about this subject. So Melira, Silent Outcast, whatever she's called in the new one, she is basically alive and one of the leaders of the rebellion. She helps them break the surface of Mirrodin and descend into the first ring, the first circle of hell, essentially. It's very much Dante's Inferno. All the while, the Wanderer is blipping in and out, in and out. Kaito, the Wanderer, Nahiri, and Tyvar from the surface descend with Melira. They meet Elspeth, and they meet Koth. The Wanderer fades out, and she's gone. Nahiri is injured during a scrap with a Phyrexian. She gets scratched and she thinks, well, you know, maybe I'm infected, but we'll wait until we know for certain. There's a conversation had with Koth in the camp and Melira and Jace, who joins them there as well, as the strike forces all meet up. They were scattered, meant to come in together, but they got scattered, where Melira confronts Jace about what they're going to do with the Silex and what it actually is. They plan to plant it at the bottom of the Realm Breaker, which is a corrupted version of the World Tree from Kaldheim, and use it to blow it up and fuck up the Phyrexian invasion effort, because this tree is going to allow them to go to other planes and spread the Phyrexian both philosophy and sickness to other parts of the multiverse. Melira obviously asks him, is this safe? And Jace doesn't lie to her and says, you know, it's untested, so it might just collapse the entire plane if it's as damaged as it seems to be. So at this point, she has explained all of the 9 circles shit. So there are different spheres within the crust of Mirrodin itself, all with honky wonky gravity. At this point, they wrap all their weapons in this hex gold stuff. It's Blinkmoth Nexus juice with a bit of Glimmer Void metal that's been harvested. This allows your weapons and armor to protect yourself from Phyrexian oil. Nahiri admits to Melira when she's caught with a scratch on her neck, she's bit, basically like in a zombie movie, that she's infected. And Melira explains that she can actually cure her. She can stop the freezes taking hold and remove it from her, but it'll take days, and it will incapacitate her. To which Nahiri decides to valiantly sacrifice herself in a sense, and explains that she wants to go on and make sure that they succeed with the plan. The whole time there is this overbearing idea that this is for a greater good itself, a kind of positive, hopeful mirror to the Phyrexians all will be one mantra. These Planeswalkers know they're going to die, but they're going to try and stop the Phyrexians along the way. They descend into the Dross Pits, which is the darker swamp part of Phyrexia, via sort of like train cars, manned by the resistance fighters that Koth controls and fronts up as a fighting force. With them is a demo team that are going to try and blow up the tree if the Silex fails. As they're entering the swamps, it's explained the gases here, as well as the liquid spray on the water part of the plane, essentially in Jin-Gitaxias' realm. All of these things will actually infect you and either kill you or turn you and begin to complete you into a Phyrexian. So this place is far more toxic than any other environment towards the idea of turning you into a Phyrexian. Elspeth produces a load of vials of Halo that she's bought from New Capenna, which is basically ground up angels, and they all drink it. And this is meant to slow down the effects of pheresis, perhaps protect them, and just empower them against it. It's basically not a vaccine, but a barrier. I've seen people complain online that it doesn't make sense that like the scratch to Nahiri, spoiler alert, will like fully transform her arms and make her grow shit as the story progresses. It happens to a few other people as well. But I get that doesn't happen on Dominaria and other planes, but if you are in the thick of it, if you are literally inhaling the fumes of the Dross Pits, then perhaps the pheresis takes hold and completes you and mutates you and transmogrifies you much more efficiently on the plane of Phyrexia itself. The Halo actually seems to have a clearing effect to Jace so that his psychic powers become stronger on the planet, and he suddenly senses someone calling out for help. It's a booty call from his ex-girlfriend, Vraska. At this point, Jace does a thing that I think a lot of people will really fucking hate, is that he just says, oh no, I have to go help her, like, mission be damned. And I've seen people criticizing this because it's very fucking stupid to choose one person over the fate of perhaps the entire multiverse, but maybe he's a bit selfish. Blue isn't exactly the most self-sacrificing of colours, right? Maybe it's just a personality fault from Jace, and I'm okay with that. The rest of them decide to go with him because A, he takes off with the Silex and they need that, and B, they think that saving their own is a good thing. It's a point that Elspeth makes to Kato. But they find Shieldred's arena where she makes people fight for her and other Phyrexians' entertainment, which echoes the Phyrexian arenas that we know about from the original, the second time round in the invasion block. They easily get there through the Dross Pits because Jace is hiding them from all of the Phyrexians that are fighting. Urabrask's forces are causing a ruckus and causing chaos to distract from the actual plan of blowing up the tree, because Urabrask is kind of on the side of us. He's a friendly. They find Vraska injured and dying in the arena, and they go in and they have a little bit of a combat encounter. All of the action in these stories is pretty good at conveying how each character has a very different power set, and it's solid, honestly. Jace's Betrayal is not really being very offensive. He hides himself, he uses illusion to distract Phyrexians, and later in the story he also uses like mirror images to protect himself as well. It's very inoffensive, his spells, and I really like that. Eventually they kill all the Phyrexians and they've saved Vraska, but she's already injured and already infected. And she explains that they have to go, they have to run. She's already taken, but Jace will not take no for an answer. So they cut the Silex from his pouch and take it with them and leave. They're confronted by a huge force of Phyrexians outside, and they leave Jace behind to comfort the dying Vraska. And then there's a really sweet bit here where Jace takes Vraska on a dream date to Ravnica in her mind, and it's a really nice character moment. However, it is broken shortly, not in terms of how nice it is, well the idyllic nature of it is broken as Vraska starts to turn and she utters some Phyrexian stuff and stabs Jace. It all happens kind of quick, and I wish this could be fleshed out a bit more. This isn't a novel, this is a collection of 5 essentially short stories. Jace, injured, runs away. Vraska laughs as he runs, and he bumps into the rest of them who are struggling to fight the Phyrexian forces that have found them outside the arena. Nahiri says fuck it, and she uses up as much of her power as she can to collapse the world around them, the ground, the arena itself, because she can control the metal on the ground around them, being a lithomancer, and collapses them into the plane below that they're trying to get to. This collapse puts them through to the next layer. They're all injured and worn up and torn up, but they get up and they move on, and Nahiri is lost. Vraska is gone. Jace is maimed and turning, and he knows it, and so do the rest of them. They make their way through Norn's realm. There are putrefied enemies and allies alike around the area. Norn almost has like a Gorgon thing going on where she turns her favourite playthings to stone. They use magic to get through basically a D&D puzzle, which is a bit of a weird one. I'm not going to go into that too much. And they find themselves getting into the core of Mirrodin, where Mycosynth, the original Phyrexian invasion of the planet, meets the current Phyrexian architecture. As they descend, they find the severed parts of Khan, whose head can still speak, and he warns them that it may be too late. Koth and his demolition team start to set up the charges around the area that Khan is to try and collapse the infrastructure and save and free Khan as well. And they tell the others to go on. Malira stays here too. The others do go on, and they're confronted by Phyrexian Najani, who's now full-on Elesh Norn mode, and Phyrexian Tybalt too. At this point, we go into 1v1 duel mode as Elspeth fights her old mentor in Najani, and Tyvel decides to fight the guy who stole the seeds from his planet as well. I've actually failed to mention Kaya at this point, even though she's been a prominent part of the story. My bad. But Kaya, Kato and Jace all move on, with Jace struggling thanks to the injury. They find their way down into the core of the planet and they set the bomb up. Meanwhile, Elspeth is doubting everything thanks to the powers of Tybalt and is failing to fight Ajani, and Tybalt is stabbing at Tyvel and taunting him. Eventually Tyvel uses one of his powers that's set up earlier during the trap segment. He encases him in Glimmer Void metal that he got from the Mirren Artificers and the Mirren Rebels, and that disables his powers, as we had explained earlier when they used it to get past the trap. This means the doubt in Elspeth's mind falls away. She actually subdues Ajani and knocks him unconscious. Keyword: unconscious. Tyvar then grabs Tybalt's tails, plunges it into where his heart should be, they explain, and then throws him off the bridge, and he hits the bridge below with a thud. He's not dead, but he does get stabbed through the where his heart used to be and thrown off a bridge. So, I mean, he's pretty fucked up, but I don't think he's dead. Back in the core, the very bottom surface place where they can get to try and put this bomb to blow up the tree, and as they descend, they see that the tree is reaching and has already grown to the point that it's breaching into other planes of existence, and they're potentially too late. And Kaya starts to draw into question the fact that they can even do this without detonating the tree, blowing up Mirrodin and damaging the planes, or blowing up the planes that the tree is connected to. Bearing in mind, for those who don't know, the Silex is basically a nuke, and when Urza set it off last time, he fractured time itself and set the plane he's on back into an ice age. So it's a very, very powerful bomb. Kato realizes this might damage Kamigawa, the place that he's trying to save. He sides with Kaya, and Jace starts to use his mind magic to set off the bomb whilst trying to persuade them that it's the only way. Of course, Jace is filled with perhaps feelings of revenge. It's not explicitly stated in the story, but you can understand why he'd be upset. He's meant to be the hero after all, and he did not save Vraska, and he did not help to save Mirrodin either. Meanwhile, Kaya just cannot commit to blowing up potentially multiple planes to get there, but Jace sees it as a means to an end. Again, an interesting parallel to the greater good concepts that Phyrexia often mocks. They struggle and struggle, but Jace wins out through his mind magic as the Phresis takes hold. Cables are wrapping around him and he's growing tentacles and shit. As all hope is lost and he's about to set off the bomb and Kaya can't stop him, we don't know what's going to go on, Elspeth drops down, stabs him through the chest, takes the Silex from him, and with a crackle, a pop, she's gone. She's planeswalked away with the Silex. There isn't a suggestion that Jace's eyes glow blue when Elspeth realises the change to the plan. Something has changed. In those final moments, Jace is considering options perhaps, but is too weak to communicate them. He's focusing too much on trying to detonate the Silex and perhaps not die doing so. As Elspeth runs towards him and he looks to her, perhaps he communicated in the final moments what his thoughts were. Perhaps his plan was to also planeswalk it to a certain place. This is where we get into Theory Town now. Is it to the moon of Innistrad to free Emrakul? Is it to the prison realm, the pools of becoming to free Nicobolas? What is this Silex being done? What is it doing to help stop the Phyrexian invasion? Either way, Elspeth is not dead, but she has teleported away with a nuke to somewhere that we don't know. Elesh Norn enters the room alongside a completed Jace, Vraska, Nissa, which she's just been missing at this point, and Tamio as well. We get to see Nahiri too with a dagger arm. And that's where we end. Tyvar, Kaito, and Care saying they'll never join the Phyrexian forces. Elspeth is missing. The Solics didn't go off. And we hear a crackle of power too as the tree activates and the ships that are attached to the branches descend into the planes of the multiverse to spread the Phyrexian invasion. It is very much the good guys have lost at this point, and I do wonder where we're going from here. We know that March of the Machines is going to be like actual battle between different planar forces, Thalia and members of Strixhaven and Kaldheim and Kaladesh all appearing to fight alongside Chandra. We know that's the case. But I wonder how they come to the conclusion with all this. I really hope the completed Planeswalkers don't get uncompleted. Maybe one of them does in an extreme case that really damages them, but the others are dead forever. It'd be really cool just to kill off some characters and have them dead for years, maybe to bring back much further down the line in one-off occasion. Will Elspeth ascend to godhood? Don't forget that the original Silex actually turned us into a pre-mending Planeswalker, or at least ignited his spark. Is that something we'll see again with Elspeth? Or like I said, is she freeing a bigger bad that can help them against the Phyrexian invasion? Further down the line, I do wonder, I've been thinking quite a bit about like the extended story of Magic. There's a missing Planeswalker that originally fractured, Alara, that we've never had come back up. Is that going to be something that will come back up in the future as we go into like phase 2 of all of this? Another thing when I was looking into Planes, that Amonkhet has that curse of the undead where people always come back to life as fleshy zombified versions of themselves, and I wonder if that's like a next arc where we have like a Blackest Night style thing where we get zombified versions of our favourite dead characters, Jace, Nahiri, Vraska after they're dispatched and killed, Gideon, Dovin Barn, and similar. I think that could be a really cool arc as well. There's a really interesting part in these stories where Kyra explains that normally in places of like mass death, she can feel and see and experience the dead, the souls of the dead, the ghosts. She's a ghost assassin after all. But here there are no ghosts. There's been an extinction level event for the Mirrans. Essentially, the planet has been desecrated and ripped apart, and most of the inhabitants have been killed. But there are no ghosts floating around. She points out that I observe that either A, those ghosts are still within the husks that now live on the planet that are now Phyrexian, or the thing the story suggests that even after you're dead, Phyrexia holds a part of you. It's an interesting idea if the spirit or the soul cannot be regained after they've been Phyrexianized. Like it's a metaphysical, magical disease, right? So it could have a grip on. That might mean that people can come back from the dead, that Gideon could come back, that if Elspeth has detonated the Silex, she could come back. We've seen her do it before on a plane where the afterlife is much more attached to the physical, the corporeal realm. But what if the Phyrexian disease stops your soul from coming back? Which means if you are completed, it is essentially permadeath from a narrative perspective. Or we're going to have time wibbly wobbly shit where Teferi fucks about and just transforms everything back to a place it was going to be. A few people in my Discord are obsessed with the idea that this art here looks Emrakul-esque. This is the thing we all do. We all look for Eldrazi everywhere we can. Elish Norn's hood is oversized and big, and we've got tentacles, right? I guess it's kind of like an Emrakul. I think it's strenuous at best. However, what if, and here's a theory that I've tried to pull out of my arse to put this all together, what if in the end, a temporal space-time attack from Teferi and other planeswalkers powering him up ends up merging both the Realmbreaker tree, Elish Norn's big fucking head, and the Zendikari earth powers of Nissa? What if all of these things end up combined and they become a thing like Emrakul? And then from there, Emrakul is sent back in time via that magic. And inadvertently, Teferi has created from 3 other like villainous characters Emrakul and sent it back in time to where we first meet it. I loved these short stories. They were not perfect. There was a couple of bits that weren't great. I also think like Elspeth understand the plan, but Kaya never doing so. If it is a psychic thing from Jace, why are we not just psychic that into Kaya's head to help him as well? I don't really understand what was going on there. But besides that, I loved all the character moments. I actually really enjoyed Tyvar, both his magic and his obsession with stories, oaths, sagas, and how that's not a real world tree. Kaito is a bit quippy, a bit like, oh guys, we've got company, but I think that's okay. It's alright to have a character that's like that. People are like that in real life, kinda. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a little bit of a, just going back over it, reading it in my mind, explaining it to you if you can't be fucked to read it, and just explain that I think it's really fucking good. This is probably the best I think that the Magic story has been in quite some time. I hope they carry on with this quality, and I'd love if the Magic TV show, whenever it comes about, actually ties into this in some way. But that's not going to happen. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. What's your theory for the future of Magic and its story? Let me know down below, and I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.